Guys, thanks for joining us again this week on Kelsey and Aaron Make a Baby. Just me again this week. Sorry again for another kind of talk heavy video. It's been, with the holidays coming up, it's been kind of hard to get together again. And then I want to kind of talk a little bit more about the infertility side of things. I just want to make sure that it's not really getting lost in the shuffle here, just because, again, since I am pregnant, that I just don't want things to get too pregnancy heavy, because I do want to definitely make sure that I'm talking about my infertility journey and sharing that with you guys and anybody that needs it. So tonight I'm going to kind of pick up a little bit where I left off and talk about kind of the testing that comes after that initial consultation. So when we went to our initial consultation, we got a cool little folder with just all sorts of papers about different procedures, the people that we would be working with, different fact sheets and brochures for different things, and some really nice, they had pamphlets that are really detailed explanations of some of the tests that you would be doing. So that was nice. On that first test, I apologize, I feel like I'm saying a lot. I feel really weird just having just doing these videos by yourself and just talking in your living room is really awkward. I think I've mentioned that and I'm sorry, so I'm gonna stop trying to say every other word. So the first consultation that we went to, she basically, like I said, got a lot of history from us and talked about just anything that she could think of that would maybe be a red flag for possible other issues. We really, based on, our referral was made by my husband's tests not coming back great. So that was really kind of what we were thinking was the issue, but they really want to kind of make sure that there's no other issues that might be in the mix. So the tests that got ordered, my husband needed to do a blood test, which they actually took the blood sample for that test that day at that consultation, and it covered just a couple of basic things. They've got them listed right here. It was testing for HIV and hepatitis, and it says something called RPR. I don't even know what that is. I've got my little cheat sheet here because it's been a year now and I kind of forgot what was what for some of these things. So, and then they ordered another semen analysis for him, and the main difference is the first one is kind of you're checking all the normal parameters, and then with the second test what they do is basically they check those parameters again, and then they take that sample and they let it let's see if it says how long, but basically they're testing longevity. So they're taking all of those parameters and checking morphology and motility and mobility and count and all of that, and then they're letting it sit for, I think it's 2 days, and basically saying, okay, here's 2 days, this is where we're at. So basically taking a look to make sure that in like an IUI would be possible, because if things aren't lasting, then it's gonna cause problems, or even for IVF. So that's the reason that they order that test. So we were kind of anxious to see too, and we chose to wait 90 days from the time of his first test. They had him start taking some supplements to try and boost that. So we wanted to kind of wait and get a better picture of that. So when he did complete that test, it was a few months after that point, and things had gotten a little bit better. So we were optimistic that between kind of him making those changes and doing the IUI, that would hopefully be, enough to help us be successful. So that was the workup that was ordered for men. They could do a genetic carrier screening for him, but that was just not really something that we were interested in. I had done some of the stuff when I was pregnant the first time and, ruled a bunch of stuff out. And so I guess it wasn't something that was concerning enough to us, I guess, to want to go forward with that. But that was an option for both male and female, and just something that we just chose not to do. For the female, they, like I said, at that first consultation, they did an internal ultrasound. So they were able to kind of take a look, like, here's what's going on wherever you're at in your cycle. And so they're able to see, like, hey, looks like, you probably ovulated this month, which is, I didn't think that was an issue, but it's always nice to hear from medical professionals. So then the other big two was I needed to do lab work, and they were going to draw blood and do lab work with that, and then the HSG test, and it all needed to be done within the same cycle. So they do that like between cycle 2 and 4 for the blood work, and it's a whole list of stuff they're testing. Also me for HIV and hepatitis and whatever that RPR is. I'm sure they told me at the time, and I have no idea now. But then also looking at like your hormone levels, and so like the FSH and the LH and your prolactin levels. So that gives them a better idea of just kind of overall where you're at in terms of like I think they call it your reproductive age. So I did that. We did kind of wait a little bit on that too. We ended up waiting until way more the last minute than we had kind of expected, just because, Mother Nature never likes to play ball. And so we went in October, so we had, the November cycle and the October cycle to do this testing. And we wanted to get it done by the end of the year because we had met our deductible, and we had to kind of not do the November cycle. And so then, I just kind of didn't end up on schedule where I should be. And so we're like, oh my gosh, if this doesn't, if the cycle doesn't start before the end of December, we're going to be paying way more money for this test than we would be if it, happened on time. And fortunately, the Mother Nature stars aligned and it worked out. So, but I ended up having to go in, and I think the day after Christmas I went and did my blood work, and then a few days after that, I think it was like the end of the week that Christmas was on, I had to go in for the HSG test. So I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about what that was like. So the HSG test, it's really easy to just kind of Google what the procedure is if you want kind of more medical terminology than what I'm about to give you, and I'm sorry, I'm just not a doctor. So basically, and I was even rereading this pamphlet to hopefully sound a little bit more medical than I would, and I don't think it's going to happen anyway. So the big thing that they're really testing for is to check that your fallopian tubes are doing what they're supposed to be doing. And then I guess they're also checking for infection or abnormal uterine cavity. So infection, I don't know how they look for that, but the abnormal uterine cavity should be just easy to spot, I would imagine. Basically, they're taking an x-ray of your entire uterus. And so what they're doing is they are shooting dye, x-ray dye, up into your uterus, and then what they want to see is that when it goes through your fallopian tubes, any fluid that goes in there should go out. And so I mean, they had the little screen kind of, I'm laying here and I can see the screen, and it was just kind of, it was really odd to look at. And so, but basically they just kind of want the dye to just kind of shoot out like it's supposed to. And basically what they're looking for is if there's any kind of blockage, that dye won't shoot out at the end, it'll just stop. So if they see any kind of blockage, and it just never goes through, that's when they would have to go through and probably do some sort of exploratory procedure just to see what that blockage is. Because if it, if you have issues with cysts or endometriosis, anything like that wouldn't be seen on the x-ray, or any kind of scar tissue or anything like that. That wouldn't show up on there. They would just be able to see if there was a blockage. The procedure itself, I went in, put on the hospital gown, and, went back into their room where they do the procedures. It looked like an operation table, but, I'm sure they do operations in that room as well. It was very much set up like that. So, but then they just have you lay down, and it's really kind of, discomfort wise, it's probably not too much worse than kind of having like a normal pap done. But if you're, there's plenty of people that they have a pap done and they, cramp up for several days afterwards, which I'm one of those people. So in terms of the procedure itself, it's not terribly bad. I did let a medical student, they always say, can the medical student observe? And I always say, sure, I don't care if anybody watches, but then I never take into account that can they observe always means can they come in and do this procedure? And I'm reminding myself now these days that they're not just going to watch. And sometimes I will say, if they're literally just going to watch, that's fine. But if I'm having any kind of exam, I say, no, that's okay. No students, please. So there was a little bit of difficulty, and the nurse at the end was like, wow, I have never seen one take that long. And I'm like, lucky me. So it's really not, it's not complicated. For me, really, the big thing was kind of the emotional side of it. And I hadn't really, I go online and you Google it and you're finding all the forums on like the Bump or Baby Center, and just, I like just finding a big list of people that are just sharing their story, or I'm on some Facebook groups for infertility, and a bunch of people share their experience fairly regularly, and they vary a fair amount, but I hadn't really seen anybody kind of talk about the emotional side of it. And for me, that was really when it kind of hit me like, oh my gosh, here we are at this point. And so, that was the first time, we went to the consultation, and, she's sitting there and like nudging the tissue box towards me, and I'm like, I'm okay. And so when we got to that point, and I was just bawling because it was, and they hadn't even started the procedure yet. It was just like, here I am a couple days after Christmas, which is always an emotional time, especially when you're trying for a baby. That it's just, Christmas gets really hard, or anybody that has Christmas just can be a really hard time. And so here I am just a couple days later, and, literally laying on this operation table with the big lights over me and going, oh my gosh, this is real, and this is really happening to us as a couple. And so that was really the moment that it all just kind of hit me. So just kind of be aware that there's a good possibility that point will hit you, and you will be somewhere along the line and getting a procedure done, and just don't feel bad if that happens, because they've seen it happen at any point in the stage, and or at any stage, through testing or procedures or whatever. It's okay to break down and have that moment, because it's hard. And that was really just when it hit me. And, just taking the news in from my husband's results, it was like, I just felt very numb immediately, and just kind of just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. That's crazy. But really didn't get emotional about it until that point, because it was just like, oh my gosh, they're about to shoot radioactive dye up in me. This is serious now. And so that was really the hardest part for me. And I came out, and I was just like crying in the car, and my mom, who like insisted on driving me because she had that done, years and years and years ago, and just remembered how unpleasant it was, and she's like, I'm gonna drive you just in case you're in pain afterwards, and which was really, really sweet of her. But she's just like listening to me like break down, and it was like crying and like angry at the world kind of breaking down, and that's okay too. It's okay to just feel whatever you're feeling, and just try if you can to find a good pair of ears to listen to those, because it just really sucks, and you deserve the chance to express how much it sucks in whatever way you want to. So if you don't feel like you have that pair of ears that can take that and let you just dump that out in whatever way you need to, I'm happy to be those ears. You can always message us on Facebook or email us, and I'm just happy to, if you want to just say, hey, can I just talk to you about how bad this sucks, Kelsey? And I'm happy to let you vent at me, because it just really does. And so I kind of want to wrap up there. Kind of the next step coming up was we had to basically come back together, and it was more or less another meeting. They call it a plan of care meeting at the facility we went to. Basically it was kind of like another consultation. So it was like, here's all your results, here's what we're looking at, here's what we're recommending in terms of procedure based on all of those results. So I'll just kind of stop there, and we'll kind of talk a little bit about their recommendation, and then kind of go into the next step of the process, and kind of cover that in the next video. So I apologize again for another video of just me sitting here and talking. Again, if there's anything that you want me to cover and I'm not, or any specific questions you have, again, I know I'm being kind of vague on some of my husband's results and some of the recommendations they make to him because of those results, just because he kind of asked that I not be terribly specific on these videos. So if you do have specific questions, if you guys are dealing with male factor infertility and you want to ask me those specific questions, just let me know. Even if you want to comment below, that's totally fine. I can just kind of message you those, or if you want to just message us or email us, please feel free to do so. Or if you want to just do that anyway, that's fine. We like mail. So, and make sure that you subscribe. Next week is Thanksgiving, so we will probably be posting the video earlier in the week, because if I try to do it on Thursday, I will forget because it's Thanksgiving. So if you subscribe or make sure that you like us on our Facebook page, you will know when that video gets posted earlier in the week. And we will see you guys for the next video. Thanks so much, guys.